Before I really get into it, I want to shout out Shirlane on Reddit for creating the in-depth guide for Honor Mode and Baldur's Gate 3. It's basically an aggregate thread of a lot of tips and tricks from various people on our Baldur's Gate. I don't get on Reddit much, but this is definitely worth looking at, and I'm going to link it in the description of this video. So, one of the bigger things that I want to recommend while doing your Honor Mode is alchemy. It's a very big deal. You'll want to pick up everything you can find. It's a lot more useful than you might think, especially when it comes to potions of speed. That takes hyena ears, that it can become very valuable and rare later on. And one thing I learned in that thread I mentioned was you should totally create a hireling who is a transmutation wizard, because every time they make a potion, they can make a medicine check in order to double the amount of potions that they make. So normally if you get one potion of speed, now you're going to get two if you pass. It's a 15 medicine check, so I passed it pretty rarely, but when it works, it works. I mean, obviously, if you made 3 and you got really lucky and you ended up with 6, well, you're way ahead of the curve. So I definitely recommend that. Exploring everywhere you can find, even if you don't intend on fighting enemies, like just kind of staying on the periph of a lot of battles can sometimes get you easy experience. Just going into an area and can maybe push you over the edge into a new level. Beyond that, we're talking about party makeup, and this is what I go with. It's a very safe build. It's not the best, obviously, I know that, but I've gotten repeat success with it. So I've stuck with it again in this run. As you can see, I'm a druid. I picked drow just to do it. There are probably better races you can choose. Half-orc in particular kind of gives you that safeguard from death if you really want to play it safe. Where if you were to go to 0 hit points, now you go to 1. It's, yet another thing to make sure you just don't die. I never have a problem dying necessarily in honor mode, just because I'm so safe about it. And being a druid helps because of the overshield from your wild shape. Most of the wild shapes don't have very good AC, so you're going to get hit a lot, but they do quite a bit of damage, and you do get that health buffer, which is really nice. As well, I always carry a life cleric. In this case, it's going to be Shadowheart, but I guess it could be anybody. The life cleric does its job very well, and that is heal. With a combination of their abilities and certain magic items, this becomes invaluable, and it's very, very good at doing what it does. You're going to heal pretty much any battle that you come across in the early game. I find it almost mandatory, really, especially with the rate at which honor mode enemies actually hit you. And so it kind of becomes a game of not mitigating damage, but just healing it up, because you're going to get hit. They have +2 to hit all the time, so they rarely miss, even when your AC is very high. You just have to accept that and deal with it, and a life cleric is a good way to do so. My third character is going to be a barbarian, and I take that because they can rage and reduce damage when you take a certain subclass of barbarian. I don't remember which one right now, but Karlach becomes my de facto tank most of the time. AC, again, not very high typically, but she takes hits so well that it doesn't really matter. And then the fourth spot is kind of a mix-up. I'm kind of undecided, but typically I'll take either a wizard or a sorcerer, or I will take a ranger multi-classed into rogue. I take a wizard or a sorcerer. Sorcerer is technically better, but I like the utility of wizard, just having a greater selection of spells, but sorcerer is probably the superior choice. And with the sorcerer with the meta magic, the ability to cast heightened spell or cast multiple spells on the same turn, that with potion of speed is pretty busted. But I also take the ranger because of their ability to hit, which is also very vital in honor mode, especially in the early game as well. you end up missing a lot more, and that's devastating when they have so much health. But the ranger, I guess with some of its bonuses, I'm not 100% sure, rarely misses, and when you're taking Gloomstalker Ranger in particular, with the 2 levels into Rogue, your sneak attack damage is now very, very high, and you're rarely missing. That's why I like taking Astarion. I always know he's going to hit. That's why I like it. That's why I like having him on my team. Other potential possibilities, and really, it could be anything. This is just what I use. There are so many different types of builds, classes. I don't really get into multi-classing much. Um, but Warlock is really effective. I had a game, not on honor mode, but it was regular, where I was a Warlock. We had another Warlock, and we had a Paladin and a Wizard, I believe. And we just completely dominated that game. There was nothing that could stop us in Act 3. It was so effective. Hunger Fidar is such a great spell, no matter what you're doing. So I definitely recommend that. Also, but as I said, this is just what I use. I find it to be very safe. I never felt like I was um, dying often. Usually if I was, it was just because the enemy got lucky or I was stupid. It's very safe, and if you want to use something else, by all means. But that's how I'm going to do it, and let's get into that Intellect Devour fight. I wanted to make 2 more quick notes real quick about classes. I take Circle of the Moon specifically so that I can have access to the Bear Wild Shape, which gives you 30 hit points, and he actually covers a lot of ground and does pretty good damage. And also on this run and the previous one, I'm making Gale a Divination Wizard specifically for his Portent, and this allows you to enforce these rolls that the game automatically rolls for you, and you can impose that on your enemies. So if they were going to hit you and they needed an 18 and you rolled a 7, you can just give them that. Or if you needed to hit and you rolled a high number, you can use that instead. It's very useful and another way to just keep you safe. I suppose Evocation might be worth it also, just so that you can avoid hitting your allies with AoE attacks. I don't really find myself in too many situations where I need it. I try to be very careful when it comes to positioning and strategizing. But on to the Intellect Devour fights. It's very easy if you've done what I have shown here. If you try to fight the Intellect Devourers at the very beginning with just you and Shadowheart, you're going to get ruined, because they now have a ranged attack which does 1d6 plus 2. Not very bad. The claws also, I think, do 1d6 also, something like that. But they have more health, and they're just going to ruin you if you try to fight them with 2 people. If instead you go and recruit a full party, you'll passively get to level 2, come here and just ruin them right back. So as I said, refer to the beginning of the video, take that little jumping path up instead of fighting these guys. Come back and destroy them. Just wanted to mention that because it can ruin your honor mode otherwise. And make sure you kill that hurt Mind Flayer from afar. Don't even bother engaging with it. There's a certain dialogue option that can also just automatically end your run. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one.